Thank you. We live in a very bizarre time. Nearly everywhere we go, we're being pounded by the wrong messages that will make us fat, depressed, and feeble-minded. There are the foot-long hot dogs at the ballpark, the huge meal portions at restaurants, the food pushers who ask us to supersize everything for less money, and the billboards pushing monster foods that will kill you early. I was recently driving down the freeway when I saw this billboard for a huge fast food sandwich. And then, no lie, as I turned my head to the other side of the freeway, I saw this billboard for losing weight with lap band. Indulge yourself, continually make bad decisions, and then pretty soon you will need surgery to get your inner child under control. Sounds pretty crazy. We need a better way. In this program, I'm going to show you how to be thinner, smarter, and happier all at the same time by using 10 very simple brain-based solutions. I'm going to show you how to lose weight, improve your memory, and boost your mood. For example, did you know that balancing your blood sugar is one of the most important things you can do for your physical and mental health? Or that walking 45 minutes 4 times a week not only enhances weight loss, but it has been found to decrease depression and boost your memory? Or did you know that the #1 predictor of longevity is the amount of lean muscle mass on your body? The stronger your muscles are as you age, the less likely you are to develop Alzheimer's disease. Let me be clear. This show is not weight loss for dummies. It is for thoughtful people. Weight loss for dummies is the crash diets, the cookie diets, or a diet my father once tried called the drinking man's diet, which was a low-carb, high-alcohol diet. Last week, one of my friends told me that he's no longer exercising for his butt. He is now exercising for his brain. I love that, because it means the message I am sharing across America about brain health is starting to grab people's attention. But we still have a lot of work to do. Alzheimer's disease is expected to triple in the coming decades, and there is no cure for it on the horizon. How many of you plan to live until you're 85 or beyond? Did you know that nearly 50% of people who are 85 will be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease? That should frighten anyone to get healthy now. Many scientists believe that Alzheimer's disease actually starts 30 years before people have any symptoms. At the Amen Clinics, we use a brain imaging study called SPECT to help us understand and treat our patients. SPECT measures blood flow and activity patterns. It looks at how the brain works. The image on the left is of a healthy person. It shows full, even, symmetrical activity. The image on the right is of a 59-year-old woman with Alzheimer's disease, which, as you can see, is a disaster for brain function. To decrease your risk of getting Alzheimer's disease, it is critical to immediately start preventing the illnesses that are associated with it, such as diabetes, obesity, heart disease, depression, and sleep apnea. All 10 of our solutions will help. Depression is one of the greatest problems and killers of our time, affecting 50 million Americans at some point in their lives. Nearly all of us have either suffered from depression or we know someone who has. 2 of my best friends had fathers who killed themselves. Depression, all by itself, is a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, cancer, and obesity. All of our solutions will help to boost your mood and decrease depression. And obesity is a serious national crisis, with 2/3 of us now overweight and 1/3 obese. Being overweight increases your risk for Alzheimer's disease, depression, heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. The answer in my mind to the epidemic problems of Alzheimer's disease, depression, and obesity is not to look for separate causes or cures for these problems, but rather to think of them as different expressions of the same unhealthy lifestyle that can only be truly solved by a revolution in brain health. To show you how these disorders are related, there are a number of horrifying new studies that show as your weight goes up, the actual physical size of your brain goes down. That should scare the fat off anyone. In our own studies at the Amen Clinics, we've also found that as your weight goes up, your ability to think and reason go down, which means that over time, if you don't get your weight under control, it will become harder and harder for you to use your own good judgment to get healthy. The fat on your body is not just a storage place for excess calories. It produces toxic chemicals that promote inflammation and damage your brain. Looking good is not just about vanity. It's critical to both your physical and your emotional health. When I first read these studies, I told myself I had to get healthy. In my business, I cannot afford to have a smaller brain. Plus, I absolutely love being a grandfather. But I want to be one who is healthy and energetic, not one who is sad and forgetful. By using these 10 simple solutions over the past 18 months, I've not only dropped 25 pounds with virtually no cravings at all, but I feel more energetic and more productive than I did 30 years ago. The idea for this show came from two experiences. First, a few years ago, I wrote a 12-week home study course for conquering anxiety and depression that we tested on hundreds of people across the country. When I was on the follow-up calls, the majority of people told me they felt less anxious and less depressed, which I had expected. But many people also told me that their memory was better and that they had lost 20 and 30 pounds without trying. That was when I realized that with a better brain, you also get a better body. Second, I am in the middle of performing the world's largest brain imaging study on retired NFL players. We have scanned and treated more than 100 players. For many years, the NFL said it didn't know if playing professional football caused long-term brain damage. After seeing a number of retired players at the Amen Clinics with depression and dementia, I decided to do a large study to try to answer the question about football and brain damage once and for all. The results from our study were not a surprise. Of course, playing professional football can cause long-term brain damage. You cannot get hit by guys like Minnesota Viking Ron Yary 30 to 50 times a game and not expect to have some trouble. Individually and as a group, their brains looked terrible. Plus, we found very high levels of depression, dementia, and obesity. But the exciting news is that when we put our players on our Brain Healthy program, the same one I'm going to share with you, many of them not only lost weight, but as a group, they got significantly smarter and happier at the same time, and their brains were better. Here is an example. Big Ed White played 17 seasons in the NFL. When I first met Ed, he weighed 365 pounds and scored very poorly on his cognitive tests. In addition to being scanned, all of our players undergo extensive testing for memory, reasoning, and attention. After 6 months on our program, Ed lost 40 pounds, 4 pant sizes, and increased his memory and reasoning scores by 400%. He became thinner and smarter at the same time, even though his brain damage had occurred many years earlier. Ed's experience was not unique. Nearly 80% of our players show improvement on our program. What this means to you is that even if you've been bad to your brain, you can often reverse the damage and get healthy. Is this appealing to anyone? Yes. Who wants to be thinner, smarter, and happier? Not just for 10 pounds, but for the rest of your life. Okay, let's get started. Amen solution number 1. Boost your brain to avoid the dinosaur syndrome. I was recently at dinner with a friend who was not taking his weight problem seriously, even though he worked for a healthcare company. He was morbidly obese and ordered 2 soufflés for dessert on top of a huge meal. Dumbfounded by his bad judgment, I told him he wanted to avoid the dinosaur syndrome. What's that? He laughed. Big body, little brain, become extinct. Your brain is involved in everything you do. How you think, how you feel, how you act, and every decision you make. When your brain works right, you work right. When your brain is troubled, you are much more likely to have trouble in your life. With a healthier brain, you're happier, wealthier, wiser, and you just make better decisions. When your brain is not healthy, for whatever reason, you are sadder, poorer, less wise, and less effective. The first step to getting thinner, smarter, and happier is to boost the actual physical functioning of your brain. It is your brain that pushes you away from the table, telling you that you've had enough, or it is your brain that gives you permission to have that third donut, which makes you look and feel like a blob. If you want a better mind and a better body, the first place to always start is by having a better brain. So how do you have a better brain? It's really easy. 2 things. You avoid the things that hurt it, such as brain injuries, drug and alcohol abuse, chronic stress, smoking, and obesity. And you engage in regular brain-healthy habits, such as great nutrition, sleep, exercise, new learning, and taking some simple supplements like fish oil. There is much more on boosting your brain in the program materials. Last year, we did a fascinating brain imaging project with a group of CEOs from the West Coast. When your brain works right, your business works right. One of our CEOs, Tim, was struggling with ADD, depression, sleep apnea, obesity, and uncontrolled diabetes. His scan looked awful. Tim told me that he had been diagnosed with sleep apnea 3 years earlier, but still had not found the time to get it treated. I looked at Tim and said, nothing in your life will work right, especially not your business, if your brain isn't right. It is critical to get your sleep apnea and diabetes under control. Most people don't know that uncontrolled diabetes is a disaster for brain function and increases a person's risk of Alzheimer's disease by 65%. Since our visit, Tim has gotten his sleep apnea treated, lost 20 pounds, and is sleeping much better. Plus, his business has dramatically improved because he has better focus and more energy. With a better brain, you get a better body and more money. Amen solution number 2. Focus on your motivation every day. Why do you care about being healthy? It is such a basic question, but if you don't answer it and keep the answer in front of you every day, you will get distracted and the monster billboards will run your life. Is your motivation to look great? To have great energy? Is it to live a long time? Or is it to be a role model for someone you love? My favorite story about motivation comes from Ray and Nancy. Ray White was a linebacker for the San Diego Chargers. Ray's wife Nancy had been struggling with severe memory problems and had to quit her job at the age of 56. When we evaluated Ray, he showed evidence of brain trauma. plus he was overweight. Nancy's scans were a disaster. She had severe decreased activity in the front part of her brain, consistent with a diagnosis of frontal temporal lobe dementia, for which there is no known successful treatment. My approach to helping people like Nancy is to treat her as if she were my wife or my mother and do everything I can to slow or reverse the dementia process. And certainly it doesn't always work. In this case, I told Ray and Nancy that it was critical to immediately get on a brain healthy program. Eat right, stop drinking alcohol, take their supplements, exercise, and I also recommended some other treatments as well. And I told Ray he needed to start losing weight. 10 weeks later, I saw them back for their first follow-up visit. Ray and Nancy had followed all of my recommendations. She had significantly improved. Her memory, focus, and energy were better. Ray joked that we had to slow down because she was becoming smarter than him. Nancy's follow-up SPEC study showed dramatic improvement. In addition, Ray had lost 30 pounds. Wow. He said his motivation was to help his wife. He knew that if he did everything we suggested, then she would too. He would model a brain-healthy life. They would do it as a couple. Sometimes, motivation is about love. Ray loved Nancy. So what is your motivation to get healthy? Write it down and focus on it every day. One of our players told me that he wanted to get healthy to avoid getting Alzheimer's disease like his father, who could no longer recognize him. Studies have shown that consciously focusing on your motivation activates the part of your brain that helps you make good decisions. Amen solution number 3. It's not magic. It's simple mathematics. Getting thinner, smarter, and happier is not hard if you do it by the numbers. One of the biggest lies professionals tell you is that you don't need to count your calories to lose weight and get healthy. Of course you do. Not counting your calories is like not knowing how much money you have in the bank, and yet you continue to spend, and wonder why you're bankrupt. Now, it's not as simple as calories in versus calories out. You want to think of high-quality calories in and high-quality energy out. A 250-calorie candy bar is not the same thing as a bowl of lentil soup, a piece of wild salmon, or a walnut and blueberry salad. Demand high-quality calories from your food, and be careful with how many calories you eat and drink. The average 50-year-old man needs about 2,200 calories a day to maintain his weight, while the average 50-year-old woman needs about 1,800 calories. To lose a pound a week, eat 500 calories a day less than you burn. And I like it if you lose weight slowly. You know, we're in this immediate gratification part of our evolution. It's crazy, right? Let me do it fast. But the fast weight loss programs don't work because nobody learns how to live a new life. Our most effective people, they do it slowly, but they do it consistently over time. Women, on average, are consuming 335 calories a day more than they did 30 years ago. That equates to an extra 35 pounds of fat a year on your body. Men are consuming more calories as well. No wonder you're always on a diet. You have to get your calories under control, not for 10 weeks, but for the rest of your life. If you're having trouble with your weight, keep a daily journal and write down everything you eat and drink. I promise you, if you do this, you will stop wasting your calories. For example, I was in a chain restaurant recently and thought I would order a healthy salad. When I looked online, I was horrified to discover that it was 1,400 calories. So I ordered something else. Like high-quality calories in, I also want you to think of high-quality energy out, which refers to exercise and new learning. Low-quality energy out is using things like cigarettes, caffeine, or diet pills to rev your metabolism. Exercise is the fountain of youth and boosts blood flow to your brain and chemicals that help your mood and your memory. And you don't have to go crazy with exercise. You just have to be consistent. Regular exercise has been found to help you lose weight, treats depression, and decreases your chances of Alzheimer's disease. I tell my patients, walk like you're late for 45 minutes, 4 times a week. Strength training is also important. A simple but highly effective workout regimen that also boosts brain function is found in the program materials. Amen solution number 4. Journaling prevents calorie amnesia. Do you have 5 minutes a day to literally change your life? Our patients say that keeping our daily journal to measure their progress is the one exercise that makes the biggest difference for them. It takes about 5 minutes a day and keeps them accountable and on track. It follows a highly effective business principle that also works for weight loss, which is you cannot change what you do not measure. In our journal, you write down your motivation and you look at it every day. And daily, you track your weight, your calories, and your brain-healthy habits like sleep and exercise. In addition, you write down 5 things you're grateful for every day. This one exercise has been found to increase your level of happiness in just 3 weeks. Keeping a daily journal like ours also helps you avoid calorie amnesia. You know, forgetting to count the handful of nuts you ate, the glass of wine you had before dinner, or the 3 bites of your husband's ice cream you had in bed. One of our CEOs said that he was so horrified by the number of calories he consumed in a day that he completely changed his diet. He said he would never spend so recklessly at work or he would be out of business. Research suggests that keeping a daily journal like ours will double your weight loss in just 10 weeks. Dan used to think about food all day long. Before he came to see us, he had no clue how many calories a day he ate, and he suffered with terrible cravings. He had tried diet after diet, but nothing worked. When he joined our program, his goal was just to keep from putting on more weight during the holidays. He did far more than that. In 30 weeks, he lost 77 pounds. This is Dan. Stand up, say hi. Yeah. I am so proud of him. Dan says he feels healthier, more alert, and his memory is better. For Dan, discovering his brain type, which we'll talk about in the next segment, was one of the major steps to solving his weight problem, and he has successfully dealt with his compulsive behaviors, mood swings, and anxiety that drove his overeating. And he told us for the first time, the refrigerator has stopped calling his name. Dan says that journaling was a critical part of his success. Now I have a little surprise for you. This is what 77 pounds of fat looks like. This is what Dan has stopped carrying around. Imagine carrying this around times 2 all the time. Oh my God. This is what Dan has stopped carrying around. You can do this too. None of this is hard. But now is the time to start. Not tomorrow, which is something you've been telling yourself for decades. When we come back, I'm going to show you how to boost your brain to decrease your cravings. I love that part because I lost all of my weight with no cravings at all. I'll also show you how to use food to heal your mind, including what foods to eat to be thinner, smarter, and happier. And I'll show you how to dramatically increase your chances for success by knowing your brain type. Giving everyone the same plan to get healthy is really dumb. Stay tuned, and I'll show you what I mean. Don't change the channel. Your life may depend on it. Welcome back. All of the information in this program is designed to help you win the war in your head between the adult, thoughtful part of your brain that knows what you should do and your pleasure centers that are run by a spoiled, demanding inner child who always wants what she wants whenever she wants it. Your pleasure centers are always looking for a good time. They crave the ice cream, want the double cheeseburgers, will stand in line for the fresh cinnamon rolls, and focus on having the second piece of cake. Left unchecked, your inner child is often whispering to you, like a naughty little friend. Eat it now. It's okay. We deserve it. Come on, let's have some fun. You're so uptight. Live a little. We already had one bowl of ice cream. Just one more won't hurt. We'll be better tomorrow. I promise. Without adult supervision, your inner child lives only in the moment, and he or she can ruin your life. To balance your pleasure centers and tame your inner child, there is an area in the front part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, which helps you think about what you do before you do it. The prefrontal cortex is called the executive part of the brain because it acts like the boss at work and is involved with judgment, forethought, planning, and self-control. It thinks about your future, not just what you want in the moment. Instead of thinking about the chocolate cake, it is the rational voice in your head that helps you avoid having a big belly. It is concerned about your bulging medical bills. It has the ability to say no and mean it. It is your prefrontal cortex that is watching this show, while your inner child keeps telling you, change the channel. Don't trust this guy. He'll ruin all of our fun. When your prefrontal cortex is strong, it reigns in your inner child so that you can have fun, but in a thoughtful, measured way. To get thinner, smarter, and happier, it's critical to strengthen your prefrontal cortex and be able to put your inner child into timeout whenever he or she acts up. Pay attention to me, though. It is critical to watch your internal dialogue and to be a good parent to yourself, not one who is abusive or mean. I've taught parenting classes for many years, and the two words that embody good parenting, even for your inner child, are firm and kind. When you make a mistake with food or with your health, look for ways to learn from your mistakes, but in a loving way. In this segment of the show, we're going to talk about how to strengthen your brain to decrease your cravings, and how to use food to heal your mind. In addition, I'll show you how to dramatically increase your chances for success by knowing your brain type. As we will see, giving everyone the same plan to get healthy actually makes many people worse. Amen solution number 5. Strengthen your brain to decrease your cravings. When I decided I had to get healthy, the first thing I had to do was get my own cravings under control. My inner child had been throwing tantrums for years, especially when it came to sugar. Using the following brain secrets, I lost the weight I'd been trying to lose for about 30 years with no cravings at all. Here's how. First, I kept my blood sugar balanced throughout the day. Research studies say that low blood sugar levels are associated with lower overall blood flow to your brain, which means more bad decisions. To keep your blood sugar stable, eat a nutritious breakfast with some protein. Studies repeatedly show that eating a healthy breakfast helps people maintain weight loss. Every morning, I have a 200-calorie protein organic berry shake. Also, have smaller meals throughout the day. The funny thing about my own weight loss was that I found myself eating constantly throughout the day. I just had to make good decisions and get great value from my calories. Next, I had to optimize my vitamin D level. Typically, we get a vitamin D boost from the sun, but because we are wearing more sunscreen and spending more time inside, our levels are falling, putting our health at greater risk. Low vitamin D levels have been associated with obesity, depression, memory problems, diabetes, and cancer. It is now estimated that 2/3 of Americans are deficient in vitamin D, the same percentage of people who are overweight. According to one study, when vitamin D levels are low, the hormone that helps turn off your appetite doesn't work anymore, and people feel hungry all the time, no matter how much they eat. And it is an easy fix. When I tested my own vitamin D level, it was very low, and I live in Southern California. I'm convinced that boosting my vitamin D level was critical to getting control of my cravings and my weight. Ask your doctor to order a test called 25-hydroxy-vitamin D and take vitamin D3 or get more sun if your levels are low. Optimize your omega-3 fatty acid levels by eating more fish or taking fish oil. Low levels of omega-3 fatty acids have been associated with depression, Alzheimer's disease, and obesity. I take 3 grams of high-quality fish oil a day. Trying to use willpower to control your cravings when your vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, or blood sugar levels are low is virtually impossible. Also, eliminate refined sugars, sodas, fruit juices, and artificial sweeteners from your diet, as these can trigger cravings. I know this can seem hard because sweets are the language of love for many people. And as children, we were loved, soothed, bribed, celebrated, and rewarded with sugar. My grandfather was a candy maker, and sugar used to hang out in every fun place in my brain. But sugar is addictive, and it increases inflammation and erratic brain cell firing. Plus, many doctors believe that sugar is the primary cause of obesity, high blood pressure, heart disease, and diabetes, and all of these illnesses damage your brain. The average American consumes 150 pounds of sugar a year. We need a better way. I don't agree with the people who say everything in moderation. Crack cocaine or having affairs in moderation are not good ideas. Amen solution number 6. Use food to heal your mind. Food is your best medicine, or it can be your worst enemy. The typical Western diet of bad fat, salt, and sugar, think cheeseburgers, fries, and sodas, promotes inflammation and has been associated by itself with depression, ADD, dementia, heart disease, cancer, and obesity. But if you start making better choices today, you will quickly notice that you have more energy, better focus, a better memory, and a slimmer, sexier waistline. A number of new studies have reported that a healthy diet is associated with dramatically lower risks of Alzheimer's disease and depression. Plus, what really surprised me is that when I decided to get really healthy, my food choices got better, not worse. It was the start of a wonderful relationship with food rather than to be a slave to foods that were hurting me. I used to be like a yo-yo. Crave bad foods, overeat it. Feel lousy, then hate myself in the process. Was way too much drama. Since I've been on my program, I've never eaten better, and it affects everything in my life in a positive way. My wife, Tana, has written several amazing cookbooks to help people get thinner, smarter, and happier. And of course, I get to try everything first. I love her lentil soup. Think of berry nutty quinoa as dessert. Feel smarter with fresh wild salmon, and love her stuffed bell peppers. I don't want fast food anymore because it makes me tired and stupid. I want the right food that makes me smarter. And contrary to what most people think, eating in a brain-healthy way is not more expensive, it's less expensive. My medical bills are lower, and my productivity has gone way up. And what price can you put on feeling amazing? Why not be smart and use food as medicine that heals you? As a general rule, I tell my patients, focus on high-quality calories, water, lean protein, especially from fish and beans, smart carbohydrates, which means ones that do not spike your blood sugar, that are high in fiber. One of the reasons to stay away from fast food is that they are mostly fiberless foods. And fiber is essential to stabilizing your blood sugar and keeping your digestive tract moving. Focus on healthy fats. Fat is not the enemy. Bad fat is the enemy, especially when it is combined with sugar. I also tell my patients to eat from the rainbow, which means put foods in your diet of many different natural colors, such as avocados, blueberries, spinach, yellow squash, and red bell peppers. These foods are filled with nutrients that have been shown to help people lose weight and boost their moods and their memory. Blueberries, for example, have been shown to clean up the toxic materials in the brain thought to lead to aging. But of course, this does not mean blueberry muffins or chocolate-covered blueberries. I know, it just breaks your heart, doesn't it? I thought this 700-calorie blueberry muffin was good for me. Liar! And cook with brain-healthy herbs and spices. For example, did you know that garlic and oregano boost blood flow to the brain? Saffron has been shown to have antidepressant effects. Rosemary, thyme, and sage can help your memory, and curry has a nutrient in it that has been shown to decrease the plaques thought to be responsible for Alzheimer's disease. Here is a great example of how one of our own doctors used these principles to get healthy. While I was writing the Amen Solution, I got an unexpected email from Dr. Riz Malik from our Reston, Virginia clinic with a subject line that read, "A different person." He wrote that he had lost 33 pounds in 4 months. When Riz came to the United States 15 years ago, he started eating the typical Western diet, including 4 sodas and 2 fast food meals a day, and he ballooned to 183 pounds and developed acid reflux. Then he started thinking to himself, I'm telling my patients to get healthy. I need to follow my own advice. He started making simple changes. He ditched the sodas for water with a little lemon juice, and he watched his calories. He started eating skinless chicken and turkey, whole grain bread, organic apples and blueberries, yogurt, high-fiber lentils, and a lot of vegetables. He also started taking fish oil and doing about 10 to 15 minutes of light exercise a day. He told me he thought he would miss the fast food. But after a few weeks, his cravings completely went away, and he looked forward to his blueberries and yogurt. That is exactly what happened to me. Riz's waist size went from 36 inches to 30, but weight loss wasn't his only benefit. His sleep improved, his reflux is gone, and he feels more energetic and more focused. With a better body, you also get a better brain. In the program materials, I give you our 50 best brain-healthy foods, a great brain-healthy weight loss cookbook from Tana, and 200 practical, inexpensive ways to get healthy now. For example, if you're having trouble with your mood, memory, or weight, make sure to eliminate any food allergies that you might have. Did you know that gluten from wheat can literally make some people crazy? There are scientific reports of people actually having psychotic episodes when they're exposed to gluten. And when they eliminate wheat from their diets, their stomachs and their brains are better. One of my patients lost 30 pounds, and her moodiness and irritable bowel symptoms completely went away when she got wheat out of her diet. ADHD and autistic children often do better when we put them on an elimination diet that gets rid of the processed foods and food dyes and additives. One of my patients would become violent whenever he ate MSG. When we scanned him on MSG, his brain took on a more violent look. I test many of my patients for food allergies. When eating out, always ask for the nutritional guide, which will help your brain make better decisions. Most restaurants now have these guides, and they will horrify you worse than Piranha 3D. Some appetizers like onion rings or potato skins can cost you more than 1,200 calories, more than half of your daily calorie allowance. When I was in a coffee house recently with a friend who was having trouble with her weight, I helped her discover that the latte she was about to order was 600 calories, a third of her daily calorie allowance for one drink. Shocked, she ordered green tea instead that was virtually calorie-free. I love saving money, and I love getting great value from my food. Likewise, always read the food labels. I was on vacation recently with my son Anthony, and we were shopping together when he put a healthy protein bar in our cart. We then looked at the food label together, and it had 14 different types of sugar in it, along with artificial dyes and sweeteners. I told my son the bar really must have been mislabeled, because really, it was an early death bar. Read the labels. If you don't know what's in something, don't eat it. Would you ever buy something without knowing the cost? Be smart with your food, and you will be smarter overall. Amen solution number 7, know your brain type. After looking at over 60,000 brain SPECT scans over the past 20 years, one of the most important lessons we have learned at the Amen clinics is that problems like being overweight, or having ADD, or being depressed are not single or simple problems in the brain. They all have multiple types. Through our brain imaging work, I've described 6 different types of ADD, 7 different types of anxiety and depression, and 5 different types of overeaters. Knowing your specific type of problem is essential to getting the right help. I talk about this concept in great detail in the program materials. For now, the 5 types of overeaters include the compulsive overeater, who constantly thinks about food, the impulsive overeater, who has poor impulse control, the impulsive-compulsive overeater, who tends to be both impulsive and compulsive at the same time, the sad overeater, who eats as a way to medicate feelings of sadness or depression, and the anxious overeater, who eats as a way to soothe his or her anxiety. Understanding the specific type of brain you have is critical to getting the right help and can help target your diet, supplements, and medications if needed. In one study, 42% of morbidly obese patients were diagnosed with ADD or attention deficit disorder. These people are typically the impulsive overeaters, and it is virtually impossible to get them to lose weight, even with surgery, without first helping their brains. But for people who are anxious or compulsive, giving them ADD strategies almost always makes them more anxious or more compulsive. People who are compulsive tend to do better on higher carbohydrate diets because they tend to calm the brain, while people who are impulsive do better with higher protein diets. This is critical because the wrong diet can make some people mean, angry, or really out of sorts. Recently, I was on the Rachael Ray Show, and when I said this to Rachel, she told me that she had tried a low-carb diet, and it made her so mean that she wondered why her husband didn't leave her. I have seen couples have serious marital problems just because one of the partners got their hands on the wrong diet books. In our clinics, we use brain SPECT imaging to help us understand and treat our patients. But a long time ago, I realized not everyone is able to get a scan. My books are now translated into 30 languages, and if you read one in Japan or Italy, odds are you're not going to get a scan. So based on thousands of scans, I developed a series of questionnaires to help people predict what their brain might look like if they could get a scan. And then based on the answers, I give suggestions on ways to think about helping your brain with certain natural supplements, medications, or exercises. The questionnaires are found in the program materials, and they're used by mental health professionals around the world. Of course, you should always talk to your doctor. When Eileen first joined our program, she weighed 187 pounds. When she took our questionnaire, she discovered that she was type 5, the anxious overeater, and used food as a way to soothe her anxiety. She found that keeping our journal helped to keep her on track, and especially loved the exercises in it to help calm her mind. Over about 6 months, she lost her anxiety and a whole lot of weight. Since starting our program, Eileen has lost 40 pounds and 5 pant sizes. Stand up. I'm very proud of you. When we come back, I will talk about how using specific supplements can help you become thinner, smarter, and happier. And I'll give you tools to help you stop emotional overeating. Plus, I will also show you how to influence your loved ones to be thinner, smarter, and happier too. That is my favorite part. Stay tuned. What do you have to lose? Maybe 10, 30, or even 70 pounds? How cool would that be not to have to carry that around anymore? Welcome back. As I mentioned in the beginning of this show, this is not weight loss for dummies. It is for thoughtful people. But one of my favorite stories about dumb ways to lose weight comes from a television station in Texas. When I arrived at the studio, the producer with whom I'd worked before looked thinner than the last time I saw him. When I asked him what he was doing, he told me he lost 20 pounds on a medically supervised 500-calorie-a-day diet. Whoa. I don't like those diets because they don't teach people how to live in the real world. They are a quick fix, and people usually just gain the weight right back. The day I was at the studio was the last day of his diet, and as a way to celebrate, he had 2 of his favorite deep dish pizzas flown in from Chicago so that he could eat them over the weekend. You're kidding, I said. No, why? You're acting like an alcoholic who just got out of rehab. And as a way to celebrate your sobriety, you are planning on getting drunk. Not the sign of intelligent life. When I saw him a few months later, he had put back on all the weight and more. It's time for a new approach, not just for a few weeks, but for the rest of your life. In this final segment of the show, we're going to talk about smart ways to get thinner, smarter, and happier, including the thoughtful use of targeted supplements, powerful ways to stop emotional overeating, and influencing those you love to get thinner, smarter, and happier too. Amen solution number 8, targeted supplements to boost your brain and your body. When I first started our brain imaging work in 1991 at the Amen Clinics, I was so excited because I could see the underlying brain patterns of many of the problems I treated, like ADD, brain injuries, autism, mood disorders, and Alzheimer's disease. Initially, I thought our imaging work would lead us to use more medications because we were dealing with biological problems. But in fact, over time, our imaging work has actually led me to use less medicine because I didn't like the effect some medications had on the brain. Some anti-anxiety medications, for example, looked like alcohol on the scans, and many painkillers were worse. This led me to look for alternative ways to optimize brain function. And to my surprise, there were many natural ways that had good scientific evidence for optimizing brain function, including your diet, meditation, and using natural supplements. And what I found most interesting was that the same supplements tended to help people be thinner, smarter, and happier at the same time. For example, I recommend that all of my patients take a multiple vitamin every day. Most Americans do not eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, the minimum required to get the nutrition you need. I think of taking a multiple vitamin as insurance. And a recent study found that taking a multiple vitamin every day significantly improved mood and mental performance. I also recommend that all of my patients take fish oil every day. Fish oil contains omega-3 fatty acids, which have been found to be low in people with ADD, depression, suicide, Alzheimer's disease, and obesity. Taking fish oil has been found to be good for your heart, your skin, your eyes, your joints, your hair, and your brain. In a recent study, taking omega-3s have been found to decrease your appetite and your cravings. One of our patients lost 40 pounds and attributed the bulk of his weight loss to taking fish oil, which he said completely knocked off his appetite. I usually recommend people take between 1 to 3 grams of high-quality fish oil a day. For people who cannot take fish oil, flax seeds or flax oil is my second choice. As I mentioned before, another critical supplement is vitamin D. Know your vitamin D level and take vitamin D3 or get more sun if your level is low. There are supplements that can help with cravings. Chromium and alpha-lipoic acid can help balance blood sugar, which, as we have seen, is critical to getting your cravings under control. And there is a very interesting supplement called N-acetylcysteine that has been shown in 5 studies now to decrease cravings and compulsive behaviors for cocaine, alcohol, marijuana, and gambling. Then there are supplements I recommend for each brain type. For example, if there are issues with moodiness and pain, I often recommend SAMe. If I need to boost focus and impulse control, I may use a green tea extract. Or if I want to calm worry and overthinking, I often recommend 5-HTP saffron or St. John's wort. In our study of retired football players, we use the whole program to help them get thinner, smarter, and happier, and also relied heavily on nutritional supplements to help them be successful. All of our players took a multiple vitamin, fish oil, and targeted supplements to help their memory and mood. To date, we have 32 players with follow-up scans and cognitive test scores. Not only did our players lose weight, they also felt smarter and happier. 70% reported their memories were better. 53% noticed improvements in their attention. And 40% said they felt happier and more motivated. In addition, we saw highly significant increases in the front decision-making part of their brains. At 34, Cam Cleland was one of our youngest NFL players. He had just retired as a tight end and was struggling with depression, irritability, memory, weight, and marital problems. His wife, who was at her wit's end, found out about our study. Cam had had 3 concussions in college and 5 in the pros. His brain showed evidence of physical trauma along with being compulsive and sad. After 8 months on our program, his testing showed dramatic improvements in mood, attention, and memory. Plus, his brain was better, and he lost 35 pounds and 4 pant sizes. Of course, supplements will never work by themselves if you eat too much or do not exercise. To be smart, you have to do the whole program, including knowing your brain type. There is much more on the thoughtful use of supplements in the program materials. Amen solution number 9, tools to end emotional overeating. Too often, when people get stressed or upset, they turn to food as a way to soothe their mind. I've certainly done that. I remember one day when I dealt with 4 suicidal patients, 2 violent teenagers, and 2 couples who hated each other. When I got home, I felt like I deserved all 7 of the chocolate chip cookies I ate. Some foods, especially those filled with simple carbohydrates, like cookies, cake, or bread, boost a chemical in your brain called serotonin that can quickly make us feel less anxious and less depressed. The problem, of course, is that these comfort foods can become addictive and cause us to lose control. There are better ways to deal with stress. If you want to get control of your mind and your waistline, it is essential to stop emotional overeating. Here are several simple techniques that I use whenever I feel stressed or out of control. The first one is meditation, which is a wonderful tool to calm your mind and boost your brain at the same time. Meditation actually fooled us. Initially, we thought it would calm brain activity. What we found was that many different forms of meditation actually dramatically increase blood flow to the front decision-making part of your brain, so you're smarter. Last year, we published a scientific study showing how a very simple 12-minute meditation boosted blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, the same area of your brain that helps you make good decisions. I recently treated a woman who was in a severe car accident. Shortly after, she had problems with depression, anger, and emotional overeating. Once I taught her to meditate using the same 12-minute protocol, she noticed that within a month, her moods, emotions, and eating behaviors were under much better control. You can find the simple meditation protocol in the program materials. One of the most powerful techniques you can use to stop emotional overeating is to get control of your mind and stop believing every stupid thought that goes through your head. Thoughts lie. They lie a lot. And it is often these deceptive thoughts that drive your anxiety, depression, and emotional overeating. For years, I've taught my patients to kill the ants that infest their minds. ANT stands for automatic negative thoughts, the thoughts that come into your mind automatically and ruin your day. You can learn much more about this in the program materials, but the essence of ant killing is this. Whenever you feel sad, mad, nervous, or out of control, write down your automatic negative thoughts and ask yourself, are they true? For example, Sherry, one of my patients, recently told me that she feels guilty whenever she doesn't clean her plate. When she was a child, her mother made her feel bad if she didn't eat everything she served. I remember my mom trying to do the same thing to me. Think about the poor people in China, she said. One of the few times she hit me was when I replied, well, let's pack it up and send it to them. The other time she hit me was when I lit the couch on fire when I was 5 years old. But that is a story for another time. I asked Sherry to write down the thought, I should eat everything on my plate. Is that true? I asked. Of course it isn't true. Look at me. It's obvious I've eaten way too much. I'm done letting her voice inside my head control me. Carlos knows a lot about ants. His mind was filled with worries and negative thinking when he first came to see us for anger and trouble focusing. Carlos weighed 266 pounds. His health habits were terrible, and his brain was in trouble. By using the 10 Amen solutions, especially learning how to kill the ants, Carlos lost 50 pounds and noticed a dramatic improvement in his energy, mood, and his memory. By learning to kill the ants, he no longer overate to medicate his sadness. And by eating brain-healthy foods, he no longer had the energy crashes that made him so vulnerable to stress. On the outside, it is like he is a different person. We saw the same dramatic difference on the inside as well. How cool is that? His brain is dramatically better. By getting healthy, he changed his brain and in the process changed his life. Remember, this is not a program to lose 10 pounds. It is a program to get control of your brain and your body for the rest of your life. So Carlos is here. Would you stand up? So imagine not carrying 50 pounds around with you. I mean, no wonder people who are overweight have trouble with their knees, right? I mean, you can't put that kind of pressure on them. Many people overeat as a way to deal with past hurts or emotional traumas. Troubled childhoods, difficult parents, being abused, losing your job, going through a divorce. All of these stressful events can cause actual physical changes in the brain that lead to anxiety, depression, and emotional overeating. Whenever we experience emotional trauma, it often gets stuck in our brains, even if it happened decades earlier, and it can hurt you. Emotional distress increases a hormone called cortisol that normally helps us deal with emergencies. But when we are exposed to too much cortisol, it causes us to store fat, especially around our bellies, and it can kill cells in the memory centers of the brain. Sharon came to see me for being anxious and overweight. On her SPECT scan, she had an emotional trauma pattern. We call it the diamond pattern because the emotional part of the brain is overactive in such a way that it looks like a diamond. When I asked Sharon about trauma, she initially denied any. I asked her 5 times. I then asked her to tell me why she overate. I don't know, she said. Sometimes I just feel so nervous, and food makes me feel better, at least for a while. One of the most effective tools I use with my patients is something I call disconnecting the bridges from the past. Whenever you feel upset, write down how you feel in the moment, such as I feel really anxious. And then go back in your mind to the first time in your life that you can remember having that feeling. In Sharon's case, whenever she felt anxious, she had trouble breathing. When I asked her what she felt, she said she felt like she was suffocating. I asked her to go back in her mind to the first time in her life that she could remember having trouble breathing. Her mind immediately went back to a time when she was 4 years old and had a piece of steak stuck in her throat. She turned blue and thought she was going to die. She remembers someone from behind her squeezing her really hard and dislodged the piece of meat. She was so upset that she couldn't stop crying. Her parents gave her cake and ice cream to calm her down. Once she understood the emotional bridge, she was able to disconnect her anxiety from the event and made significant progress on her anxiety and weight over the next year. Learning how to deal with stress and disconnecting the traumas from the past are critical pieces to ending emotional overeating. If you have emotional trauma, don't run from it. Make sure that you get help for it. I talk about how to do this in detail in the program materials. Amen solution number 10. With your behavior, you can influence your loved ones to be thinner, smarter, and happier too. You have much more influence than you ever imagined. If you follow the program, I know it works. We were able to demonstrate it with our retired NFL players who started with bad brains and many bad brain habits. Roy Williams is part of a 3-generational NFL family. He, his son Eric, and his grandson Kyle all played in the NFL and are all part of our study. When Roy came to see us at the age of 73, he weighed 334 pounds. Getting Roy motivated to get healthy was surprisingly easy. All I had to tell him was that as his weight went up, the size of his brain went down. Roy runs a highly successful business that helps families transition their wealth to the next generation. So he was not too keen on having a smaller brain. Roy did all of the things we asked of him. And not only has he lost 30 pounds, his attention, memory, and reasoning scores, which were already pretty good, got even better. His wife says he has the energy of someone who is 40 years old, which initially really irritated her. But over time, our program ideas rubbed off on her, and she has lost weight too. And his son and grandson have lost even more weight than Roy has. The best way to influence the people you love is to first get healthy yourself. If your health habits are bad, you influence your loved ones in a negative way. If you're healthy, if you lose weight, and if you improve your energy and mood, people will want what you have. Remember Carlos? After seeing her husband's success, and this is the part I love the most, his wife, who was not overweight, started our program to learn how to create a brain-healthy family and ended up losing 10 pounds herself. Then his 14-year-old daughter took our program. Carlos's success influenced everyone he loved. My mother-in-law, Mary, is a very successful businesswoman. When she started to lose weight, many of the women in her office followed her example and lost weight too. You can have a tremendous influence on the health of those around you. Are you involved in your school, your business, or your church? Since I've focused on being healthier, I've begun to realize that many schools, businesses, and churches could do much better in helping the people they serve. I recently went to our church with my family and told my wife I would save us seats while she took our daughter to children's church. As I walked toward the sanctuary, I passed hundreds of donuts for sale, for charity. And then I walked by bacon and sausage cooking on the grill and started to feel really irritated. And then I passed hundreds of hot dogs being prepared for after church. And as I sat down, the minister was talking about the ice cream festival they had the night before. I was so frustrated that when my wife found me in church, was typing on my phone. And she gave me that look that only your wife can give you. That said, "Why are you on that thing in church?" Then I showed her what I was writing. go to church, get donuts, bacon, sausage, hot dogs, ice cream. They have no idea they're sending people to heaven early. We need to help them become a brain-healthy church. They have no idea what they're doing to the health of the congregation. The same thing happens in our schools. The same thing happens in businesses. And if you get this message, you can be an agent for change. Because I don't think God wants us to go to heaven early. That's not the plan. Are you going to be an agent for change? Or in fact, are you going to hurt those you serve? Research suggests that your diet will affect generations to come. In a new study, animals that were given the typical Western diet over several generations bred more obese offspring. The diet changed the functioning of the animal's genes so that over time they ate more and more food and became fatter and fatter. This is very disturbing because it means that unless you get yourself under control now, it can affect your children, your grandchildren, even your great-grandchildren. Your legacy is going to be about health or about illness. You get to decide. Are you going to be a good role model and help the people you love, or are you going to be a bad role model and hurt them? My brain keeps coming back to the story of Ray and Nancy. Ray loved his wife who had dementia so much that he knew the only way that she would follow the plan was if he modeled the behavior. Losing 30 pounds made a dramatic difference in his life and in her life as well. The best way to change other people's behavior is to start by changing your own. That is love. What are you doing today to get healthy? What are you doing today to model good health for those you love? Who do you want to influence? Is it your husband, your children, your grandchildren, your employees? I know for me, I want to influence all the people in my life. But if I'm not healthy, I have no influence and I have no credibility. You can do this. None of this is hard. By using these 10 Amen solutions, you can become thinner, smarter, and happier and help those you love become thinner, smarter, and happier too. May God bless you. I'm Dr. Daniel Amen.